Okay, have you ever just stopped and wondered, how did we end up running the entire planet? I mean, really, what makes us, Homo sapiens, so special? How did we go from just another ape, hiding from predators, to the absolute rulers of Earth? Well, get ready, because we're about to dive into one of the most epic stories ever told, the story of us, all based on Yuval Noah Harari's mind-blowing book, Sapiens.
It really all comes down to this one single massive question. Because, if you rewind the clock, our domination was not a sure thing, not even close. For most of our history, the idea that we would one day build cities or fly to the moon, honestly, it would have been completely laughable.
And that's the absolute truth. The most important thing to get about our prehistoric ancestors is that they were insignificant. We were just another animal, having about as much impact on the world as, say, a flock of birds or a troop of monkeys. We were just there.
This really puts into perspective the incredible jump we made. I mean, for the vast majority of our time on Earth, we were not at the top of the food chain. We lived in constant fear. We were the hunted, not the hunters. So, what on earth happened? What was the secret sauce that turned a scared little primate into the master of the planet?
Well, it all kicked off around 70,000 years ago, with what Harari calls the cognitive revolution. And this wasn't about our brains suddenly getting bigger or anything like that. Nope. It was about our brains starting to work in a totally new way. We basically developed a superpower.
And that superpower was something called fictive language. We became the only animal on the entire planet that can talk about and truly believe in things that don't physically exist. Just think about that for a second. You can't see a nation. You can't touch human rights. You can't hold a corporation in your hand. They're all just stories we've agreed to believe in. And that changed everything.
And here's the genius part. This ability to create shared myths allows for incredibly flexible cooperation on a massive scale. Sure, a group of chimpanzees can cooperate, but only with chimps they know personally. But with a shared story, thousands, even millions of human strangers can all work together towards a common goal. Building a city, fighting a war, creating a legal system. It's all possible because we believe in the same fictions. This was our killer app. It's how we outsmarted and outmaneuvered everyone, including the tough, big-brained Neanderthals.
Okay, so let's fast forward to our next huge turning point, about 10,000 years ago. Now, we usually think of the agricultural revolution as this amazing step forward for humanity, right? Farming, settlements, progress. But Harari has a very different take. He suggests it wasn't the great deal we think it was.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement, isn't it? History's biggest fraud. But here's the crazy thing. When you look at it from the perspective of the average person living at the time, he might just have a point.
Just look at the comparison. Your average hunter-gatherer probably worked a lot less, ate a much more varied and nutritious diet, and was healthier overall. Farmers, on the other hand, they worked from sunrise to sunset, subsisted on a pretty boring diet of one or two staple crops, and because they were all living together in crowded settlements, disease spread like wildfire. Plus, for the first time, you get this huge gap between the haves and the have-nots, the rise of an elite class.
And this leads to this absolutely mind-bending idea. We thought we were domesticating wheat, but what if wheat was actually domesticating us? From the wheat's perspective, it hit the evolutionary jackpot. It tricked these clever apes into giving up their pretty decent lifestyle to spend all day, every day clearing rocks, pulling weeds, and fetching water just for it. Sure, agriculture allowed for more people to exist, but the quality of life for most of them arguably got worse.
So we've got these massive populations of farmers now, but they're spread out all over the globe, living in thousands of different cultures. The next big chapter in our story is how all these separate little worlds started to merge into the single, interconnected global village we have today. And this happened thanks to three incredibly powerful, you guessed it, imagined orders. First up, money. That dollar bill in your pocket, it's just a piece of printed paper. It has no real value. But we all believe it has value. And that shared belief makes money the most successful story ever told. It's a system of trust so powerful it lets total strangers who worship different gods and obey different kings cooperate and trade with each other.
Next, you have empires. Now, empires were often built on violence and oppression, for sure, but they were also these giant melting pots. By conquering huge, diverse territories, they spread common languages, laws, and customs across vast areas, stitching humanity together in new ways. Just think about how the Roman Empire connected Britain to Egypt.
And finally, there's religion. For the first time, you see the rise of universal religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. And their big idea was that all people everywhere were part of a single cosmic order. This gave millions of people a shared identity that was way bigger than just their family or their tribe.
Which brings us to the last 500 years or so, and the revolution that really changed the game more than any other. But what's so fascinating is that it wasn't a revolution of knowledge. It was actually a revolution of ignorance.
You see, for most of human history, the general assumption was that everything worth knowing was already known, written down in some ancient book or passed down through tradition. The scientific revolution was kicked off by one radical, humbling admission. We don't know. That discovery of ignorance was like rocket fuel. It made us hungry to go out, observe, experiment, and find new knowledge. And this new quest for knowledge got supercharged by an incredible partnership. Science gave us new technologies. Empires used those technologies to explore and conquer new lands, bringing back new resources and data. And the whole thing was funded by capitalism, which is built on this radical new idea of trust in the future, the belief that reinvesting your profits today will lead to even bigger profits tomorrow. This feedback loop became the engine of the modern world. And that brings us right up to today. We've conquered famine, plague, and war on a scale our ancestors couldn't even dream of. We've unlocked the secrets of the atom and cracked the code of life itself. We are, without a doubt, the most powerful thing this planet has ever seen. But this incredible power brings with it some really deep questions about where we go from here.
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? With all our gadgets, our wealth, our power, are we actually any happier than the people who came before us? The research is kind of sobering. It suggests that once your basic needs are met, more stuff and more power don't really move the needle on happiness. It seems our brains are kind of hardwired with a happiness set point that's really tough to change.
And here is where the story takes a turn into science fiction, except it's real. For 4 billion years, life on Earth has been shaped by the slow, blind process of natural selection. Now, for the very first time, one species, us, is about to take the wheel. We are beginning to replace natural selection with intelligent design, our own intelligent design.
The new goals for humankind are just breathtaking. We're not just trying to cure diseases anymore, we're talking about upgrading ourselves through genetic engineering, maybe even conquering death. We're building artificial intelligences that could one day be smarter than us. And we're working on ways to directly merge our brains with computers, to become literal cyborgs. We are on the verge of becoming like the gods we once invented in our stories.
And this leaves us with the final, absolutely staggering thought. We are about to possess the powers of creation and destruction that we used to attribute to gods. But here's the catch. We are still the same old sapiens, with our ancient ape brains, our irrational fears, and our greedy desires. So the question is no longer, what do we want to achieve? The question is, what do we want to want? What we decide in the next century could shape the future of life itself. And honestly, there's no bigger question than that.